Hello, Divorce and Beyond family. I've got some exciting news because we have teamed up with Headspace to guide you toward better mental health. With Headspace's meditation, mindfulness tools, and mental health support, you're set for a journey to a happier, healthier you. And there's more because if you sign up through our exclusive link, you'll enjoy 2 weeks of Headspace membership for free. So don't miss out on this opportunity to embrace your well-being. You can check out the show notes for the link or just go to divorcebeyond.com/headspace-Susan. And you'll be able to start your path to peace and joy today. This is just one more way that we can support you on your journey to a better beyond.
Coming up on today's episode of the Divorce and Beyond podcast.
People say, well, I want to be happier. You automatically think of, well, when the divorce is over, or when I get this, or when I have this, or when I finally move from my house. And it's not about the things, and it's not about all of that. It's about an inner sense of peace and well-being. It comes from inside. It's a feeling. It's a feeling first, and then the whole outside falls into place with that.
Hello, and welcome to the Divorce and Beyond podcast. I'm Susan Guthrie, your host. As a top divorce attorney and family law mediator for 30 years, I know what you need to know to get through your divorce, and most importantly, how to move beyond it to thrive and transition to your new future. My experts and I are here to give you the insider view into the process, so listen in for the wisdom and expert information you need on your journey through divorce and beyond. Hello, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm Susan Guthrie, your host, and welcome back to Divorce and Beyond, where I'm going to help you navigate those uncharted waters of life through, but more importantly, beyond divorce. And today we are diving into a topic that I have to say is actually truly close to my heart, because it's a journey that I've been on myself for the past year, and that is finding happiness even when life throws you some curveballs, things like divorce, maybe. So I have the perfect coach, as always, you guys. I've gone out to find the perfect expert to speak to you. Today, joining me is Jodi Silverman, and she is a coach, a speaker, and a podcast host, and she specializes in helping women navigate that empty nest midlife transition. And one of the important things about her is that she's not just any coach. She is a happy for no reason certified trainer. Hello. So that means she has some serious happiness insights to share with us all. So Jodi, welcome to Divorce and Beyond.
Oh, thank you, Susan. I'm so excited to be here. And I, you know, what connected me immediately before I met you was the title of your show, Divorce and Beyond, because I also have a show that has the word beyond in it. Because
yes,
we don't want to stay in the muck. We want to go beyond it. So thank you for hosting me.
Well, and I'm so happy to have you here because this topic of happiness I shared with you through the years. I've helped so many people go through their divorce process as their divorce attorney, as their mediator, as their coach, as their friend. And I can almost say universally, when I talk to them about what they want their beyond to look like, right? That's a very big thing for me. I think that if you're looking forward, you have to start thinking about what beyond will look like. Almost to a person, they all would say, well, I want to be happy in my beyond. But they really didn't have any idea what that looked like or what that meant. They just knew that in the moment they were unhappy. So this idea of being happy for no reason really resonated with me when you and I were talking about it. And I know it's going to really intrigue my listeners. So, you know, before we dive in, can you just start with what it means to be happy for no reason?
Yes. And as you're saying it, I have this huge smile because I too felt the same way. As soon as I heard about this book, and it's a book, and it's titled Happy for No Reason by Marcy Shimoff, I just didn't even read what it was about. I just bought it. And then I became a certified trainer in it. So the definition by Marcy, through all her research, for being happy for no reason is an inner state of peace and well-being, not dependent upon your circumstances. Let it land.
I love that.
Yeah.
Right? I'm diving into that, and that describes the journey that I have been on and the place that I've managed to find myself coming to. That is so important, and that we're starting with that, I think, is really, really, one of the golden nuggets here for my listeners, because that key that you just said there is finding that place without it being dependent on your circumstances, because they're all in places for the most part, right? Where their circumstances are not exactly what they want their life to be. Going through divorce, I mean, I know, not necessarily the happiest of processes.
And not imagining that their life, that they would be where they are in life. And the other part of that is the inner state of peace and well-being. So it's interesting when people think happy, and I say the same thing to like moms experiencing their kids leaving, which is a devastating transition for a lot of moms. It's that feeling of inner peace. It's not a thing. It's a feeling. It's like contentment. It's like, that's what I want to express. Like when people say, well, I want to be happier, you automatically think of, well, when the divorce is over, or when I get this, or when I have this, or when I finally move from my house. And it's not about the things. And it's not about all of that. It's about an inner sense of peace and well-being. It comes from inside. It's a feeling. It's a feeling first. And then the whole outside falls into place with that. And yes, it is possible, because I know there's people listening when I talk about this all the time, say, there's no way. You don't know. You didn't go through a divorce. And no, but I watched my parents go through a divorce. And it's possible. It's possible to have sadness and joy in the same space, anger and peace in the same space. It starts with making a decision that you want to be happier. So when you ask what you want, when you ask a client of yours what you want your life to look like beyond divorce, and they say happier, that's a decision right there. Okay, now how do we find it? And there are ways to go about finding it.
Yeah, and that's, I think, right, the real key here. But one of my things that I say to my listeners all the time is awareness is where we start, right? Awareness is that something is possible. And I think what you just said is so very, very true for people who are in the place that listeners are in right now, going through such a difficult process. Their lives are completely upended in so many different ways, whether they are the one who wanted the divorce, or perhaps this was not something that they foresaw in their future. And the reality is, and you just said that thing, it reminds me of my friend, the divorce doctor who's been on the show several times, Elizabeth Cohen, and she has something called the golden and. And you just used it beautifully, right? You can be this and you can be this at the same time. But awareness that it's possible is the first step. And you just mentioned, then there is a process that you go through. And so I'd love to hear, so as a, happy for no reason certified trainer, what is it that you tell people? They come to you and they say, well, you're saying this and that. I can be sad and happy at the same time. How do you help people get there? How do they even start that journey?
Well, it starts with what you said, awareness. It's awareness of really it's awareness of your self-talk. It's awareness of the things that you're telling yourself, the things you're thinking, both silently and out loud. I mean, I think the statistic is that we have something like up to 60,000 thoughts a day. I mean, that's why we're tired. Let's just say that's why we're exhausted.
I was just going to say, exhausted. Anyone who wonders if monkey brain is real, you just got the proof.
And that out of those, I think it's 40 to 60,000 thoughts a day. And of those possible thoughts you're having a day, I think it's an unheard of amount that up to 80% of them can be negative. Then they're on repeat, subconscious. So it starts with awareness. It's okay. Well, let's start becoming aware of what we're thinking, how we're feeling, and how those feelings are translating to the things we're saying to ourselves, and how we're saying and communicating and what we're talking about to others. And, so the first step is the awareness, which is paying attention. When it comes to life transitions and challenges and obstacles such as divorce, we can get caught in something called the blame, shame, and complain game.
Oh, yeah.
And,
oh, yeah.
We blame other people for or circumstances for our unhappiness. I can't be happy because my husband was so annoying, or because I keep getting phone calls about X. Then the shaming is the shaming or embarrassment, but it's the self-directed shaming. It's not about shaming others. It's it's directed blame for yourself for your current situation. Self-criticism is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Talk about that shaming. The other one is complaining. The blah, 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 that voice, the voice of Charlie Brown's mom in your back, complain. Think about the things you complain about in a given day: the weather, the economy, the person who you believe is causing you the most grief in your life. If you are going through that divorce, the blame, shame, and complain is the first thing to be aware of. How much are you blaming, self-shaming, and complaining in your life? And that's by paying attention. And then once you're aware of it, you can then take that and start calming it down, start shifting it, and start coming out of the blame, shame, and complain. And there's a couple little fun things you can do. One is you can make yourself a blame, shame, and complain jar. And every time you catch yourself doing it, put a quarter in the jar. And you can make that a family thing. You can.
Yeah.
But the other thing is an exercise you can do for yourself. You can journal this. You can say it out loud in front of a mirror. You can do it with a friend if you have somebody else who's in a similar situation, and you're both, and that's your blame, shame, and complain partner in life. Who you're lack of a better word, bitching and moaning. But you can sit there, and it's called it's a sentence completion. Because here's the thing: the foundation of becoming happy for no reason, the foundation for raising your happiness set point, which I'll share what that is later, because we all have one, is to own your happiness, to understand that if it's to be, it's up to me. If you want to be happier, if you want to grow that inner sense of peace and well-being that is not dependent upon what's going on in your world, it's up to you. And one of the ways to do that is to finish these sentences and do it in a journal. And the first one is: something I complain about is... ... Something I blame is ... And a way I shame myself is ... And then after you do those three and you fill in your ... you then flip it and say, if I were to take a little more responsibility for my happiness, I would ... You can even say I could if you want. And it's a practice. But it flips you. It makes you really become aware and face what you're complaining about every day, what you're blaming yourself about, what you're shaming yourself about, because none of that is helping you move forward. None of that.
No.
And it's not going to help you through your process of navigating that divorce.
It actually cements you in that place. Really think of, I'm calling it in my mind, your BSC. Your blame, shame, and complain, your BSC. So you can have a BSC jar, but think of that big BSC as basically your ball and chain around your ankle, holding you in that place. And, I was thinking about this as you were talking about it, and something I wanted to raise is I hear that there are two conversations going on, right? Your conversation with yourself.
Yep.
Right? Which is 60,000 thoughts a day, 80% of which can be negative. So there's a lot of BSC that you're throwing at yourself. And then there's what you say out there in the world. And I just want to point out to listeners, because I have to spend a lot of time on Instagram and Facebook and those social media outlets, because they're a part of marketing a podcast. And so I'm out there in that. And that is where I see a lot of BSCing happening for people who are going through divorce. I feel like it's a twofold thing. And so you help me with my listeners with this and me. I do think it's important to name things.
Yes.
And to be aware. And so by talking about your blame, shame, and complaining, there's a level of awareness that's brought. But then it becomes a little bit of a problem, I think, because it's also affirming that it's someone else's fault. Your life's all bad.
Yes.
And you have a lot to complain about. And so, because everyone piles on social media, right? The comments, you go girl, or you have every right to hate his guts, or she's a pain in the butt, right? So how do you change that negative? Well, I liked your exercise. So that's one way that you could do it. But could you even do that like in your social media posts, right? Like,
yes, you can.
One of the things I constantly say to myself is, and I'm going to start saying this.
You have to be the one to start that dialogue, because the people on social media, if you are, I love that BSC. If you are BSing yourself to death on social media, and that's all you're doing, and not what you just said is flipping the script, because what you just said is, here's what I've been saying, and I really want to flip this so that I can feel better and say this. That's seeking good. That's seeking validation for something positive, because what we know to be true is what we put out, what we put our attention on will come back to us tenfold. And I think, and I do believe, and I know it to be true, what you just said is social media will keep you stuck in unhappiness. It will keep it because it will validate your, yes, but he was a jerk. Yes, but this person did this to me. And going back to what you said about a guest that you had, the divorce doctor.
Yes, it's Elizabeth Cohen. Yes,
it's the number one tenet of improv is yes and. Yes and. And I have my improv instructor. I just spoke with him. He calls it radical acceptance and contribution. Yes and is a radical acceptance, and contribution is then you give something positive to it. So you posting, bitching, moaning, blame, complaining, and shaming on social media.
BSC, yeah.
If you post it, you are just asking for people to keep you there, to validate those feelings. And what are those feelings doing for you? They're keeping you stuck in unhappiness, sucking the joy out of you, in anger. And anger causes stress, and stress causes illness, both physical and mental. You are sabotaging yourself. You are not doing any harm to the other person in your life you are blame, shaming, and complaining about. So yes, either stop posting about it on social media and go internal to your team. Who is your BFF that you can sit down and say, this is how I'm feeling. I don't want to feel this way anymore. When I say this, when I'm blaming, when I'm shaming, can you please call me out on it? Versus looking for validation for BSC, because that's not going to do anything to help you be happy or beyond.
Hey, listeners. Are you navigating the tough waters of divorce and feeling overwhelmed by the process? Let me introduce you to Hello Divorce, your ultimate ally in making this journey smoother and less stressful. Hello Divorce offers a modern, affordable approach to divorce, combining expert legal advice with easy-to-use online tools. So whether you need help with paperwork, mediation, or simply some guidance, Hello Divorce has you covered. Plus, their flat fee services mean no hidden costs, just clear upfront pricing. Visit hellodivorce.com today to learn more and take the first step toward your fresh start. Remember, you don't have to do this alone. Hello Divorce is here to help. Stay tuned for more from the founder of Moms Who Dare and Happiness for No Reason certified coach, Jodi Silverman, who shares her insights in how to find happiness even in the face of life's many challenges and pitfalls.
That you are the only one responsible for your happiness. Nobody else is. Your children are not responsible. Your job is not responsible. Your career is not responsible. And your spouse, partner, whoever it is not responsible. A second practice that you can put into place to raise your happiness set point is to look for the good.
If you're enjoying this episode, be sure to check out our recent episode with the world's leading expert on managing high conflict behaviors, Bill Eddy, as he shared insights from his newest book, Our World of Adult Bullies: How to Spot Them and How to Stop Them.
Bullies parade and masquerade themselves as heroes these days because we value heroes a lot. So they pretend, they like chameleons, start to look like heroes and persuade people, hey, just follow me and cut everybody else off. And we see that domestic violence, we see that in the workplace, communities, online, in nations, etc.
And now we return to today's show.
You just said, right, posting and staying in that place of anger, say that's the emotion you're feeling right now, listener, a lot of anger. And this is what I hear from people all the time when I tell them, I just had Jill Scherer Murray on the show recently, right? My buddy, our buddy, mutual friend, right? And we were talking about the need to let it go, let that anger go. It's holding you back. And I get the yes, but from people when it comes to that. The whole episode she and I just did was about, you are entitled to your yes, but. I'm not saying in any way you don't have every right to be angry, but it goes to what you just said in this golden and. You can be angry and you can be happy and you can be content and you can be all of those things. And so you talked about something I don't want to lose because I love this idea. And you said that everyone has one, the happiness set point. Yeah. So what is a happiness set point?
So this is, again, from the Happy for No Reason, Marcy Shimoff's research that she did. She has a Happy 100. So a happiness set point is really the key to our happiness. It is, it's that everyone has a set point of their happiness. So when you get hit by life, a challenge, an obstacle, and you drop down low, your mood drops down low, you will come back to that original set point. And it's made up, think of a pie chart. It's made up of 3 areas. So your happiness set point is made up of 40% of your habits, what you choose to do and practice every day. 10% of your circumstances are made up of your circumstances, which you have no control over, right? You have control of your habits, no control of your circumstances. And then it's made up of 50% genetics. Now, I want to caution you because there's been some study, and I'm not the expert on science, but there's study in epigenetics that now shows that we can actually create and affect shifts and change within that 50% of our genetic makeup. It's not just like we're doom and gloom, because it used to be, those people who, in your life, oh, well, she's happy because her parents are happy. She was born happy and she was born with it. There is a genetic piece, and yet there is studying being done in the scientific world that can be changed as well. So if your happiness set point is determined by your habits, your genetics, and your circumstances, and you can change 40% of your habits, and now you can change part of the 50% of genetics, 90% of your level of happiness, that inner sense of peace and well-being that you have, that you want and you desire, can be changed by simply adopting habits and practicing them over time. So it turned out in her studies, Marcy's study, that the biggest difference between happy people and unhappy people is simply that they have different habits. So let's just say, for example, you couldn't even change 50% of the genetics. There's 40% of your happiness set point that's determined by the habits that you choose or don't choose to change. And you and I, right before you hit record, we were talking about one of those habits, which I didn't make up, Marcy didn't make up, but it's, I call it looking for the good, call it gratitude. So you have the blame, shame, and complain, which brings awareness so that you can take ownership. The foundation, remember I told you the foundation is owning that you are the only one responsible for your happiness. Nobody else is. Your children are not responsible. Your job is not responsible. Your career is not responsible. And your spouse, partner, whoever it is not responsible. A second practice that you can put into place to raise your happiness set point is to look for the good. Seek out the good. I mean, intentionally look for the good, savor it for 20 or more seconds. And then the third part is to go for a 3-to-1 ratio throughout the day. For anything bad, for lack of a better word, or challenging that happens, look for 3 positives that can cancel out the negative, because we are prone and we are wired to let the negative experiences really hold on to us and stick to us like Velcro, and the positives just roll off of us. And that's where that second part of savoring it for 20 seconds comes in. Because how many times have we all said, oh, look at the rainbow? And then we go on. Stop and really look at the rainbow. Don't take out your phone and take a picture of it. Savor it. Look at the rainbow and think, oh my God, that song from our childhood, red and yellow and pink. Sing it. I mean, that's when you take time to really look for the good, even that, look for that first bud in spring that's coming up from the ground. But don't just look at it and say, oh, spring's coming. Stop and savor it. So that's a really great practice. That's a kind of practice of gratitude. It is. Yeah, to stop and make a choice. So I'm going to look for good things throughout the day.
It really reminded me, the minute you were talking about it, of the idea of a gratitude journal, because when I started doing a gratitude journal, I found myself, I was committed to finding 5 things at the end of the day that I was going to write down that I was grateful for in the day. And it seemed like such a simple thing to do, but then, you'd find some days you were struggling to find things. But what I found over time was that as I went through my day, things would pop into my mind when they happened, like, oh, that's something that should go in my gratitude journal later. And what it did is it eventually made me much more aware of what I was grateful for, of moments to be grateful for. And so it made my day full of much more gratitude. And in many ways, what you're grateful for is what makes you happy. So they definitely, to me anyway, seem very intertwined.
Absolutely. And if I could just maybe give a more, just to clarify one other thing about a set point. If you think about your happiness set point as a thermostat, a setting, that no matter what happens to us, good or bad, we will generally hover around that set point. That they liken it. There was an example I read. They liken it to the person who wins the lottery and then loses all the money in a year, because their financial comfort set point of what they really believe that they were worthy of having was a certain number. And so it's a happiness set point. And then with that said, so what are some practices you can do to raise that set point? And like you just said, something good. And people get stuck in what gratitude has to look and feel like. Something good, could you be remembering wow, when I was out today, that car let me in front of them. The car let me right in front of them when I was merging on the highway. That's something to be grateful for, that there is kindness in the world. Now you're seeing that there is kindness, because we all know that the world is a very loud and noisy place, and we can lose sight of that. So look for the good, savor it for 20 seconds or more. And then when something hits, go for a 3-to-1 ratio of good to negative, or good to bad, for lack of a better word.
I love that, because it becomes a practice, right? Something that you are integrating into your life beyond just awareness. Yep. Awareness is the first step, but now you have actual practices that you can go through in the day. And I think that really a key component here is what you said, is that there's a choice here for you to be making, because this is, we talk about on our shows, I'm sure you do as much as I do. We have control over ourselves, and only we have that control, right? We're not going to control our outward circumstances. Mm-hmm. But when we do take that control and we start to flip the script, as you said here, we really have a great deal of power to add the golden and into our life. We're not saying it doesn't change the first premise. There may be something bad going on in your circumstances. Yeah,
this isn't toxic positivity. This isn't I don't walk around like a ray of sunshine. Just ask my children. I don't go around like a ray of sunshine, like nothing bothers me. I cry, I get angry, I get knocked down, I get scream, I fall off my happy for no reason. I fall off that seesaw and I go back and forth. And yet I come back to it and I catch myself quicker. So these habits, and there's so many habits, there's over 20 habits that you can do. These are just the awareness and the habit of looking for the good. When you practice them over time, it's resilience, right? Resilience is defined as the ability to bounce back from adversity and life's challenges quicker and even better than before. And quicker for you could be, it could take you an hour, but it took you an hour and a half last time. So again, that blame, shame, complaint, don't shame yourself that you got angry and miserable and you had a yes, but moment. And with that being said, the practices will help you get through the yes, buts quicker, to find the good, to see the good, to feel that sense of inner peace and well-being. And we all know that when you can increase that inner sense of peace, well-being, contentment, it relieves stress, it relieves anxiety, you become a calmer person, you become a happier for no reason person, and you're a healthier person, mind, body, and soul.
And I know you mentioned actually before, I don't want to lose sight of, before we started taping, that there's an actual quiz for the happiness set point, and you're going to share that with people. So I just want to mention that to my listeners. So if you want to find out where your current set point is, although you can change it on the dial in your thermostat of happiness, you'll be able to go to the show notes and get a link to that from Jodi so that you'll be able to try that.
And caution. Do not judge yourself on your happiness set point. Do not. And
no shaming, no essing of your BSing.
So as I'll say, if it's not as high as you thought it was, do not shame yourself. That's great. That's awareness. It's awareness. And now you can change it. And if you're really high, don't dismiss it that you don't need to put any practices and habits into place, because you want to continue to keep it at a level, because life changes every day.
Yeah, and it sure as heck does. Yeah. And that's actually another thing I want to make sure we talk about, because I mentioned in the introduction when I was talking about you that you work with women who are facing empty nest, midlife, and issues around that, which are other transitional times in life. Some of my listeners are probably in those buckets as well, as because we know that there's, a large part of the population who's going through divorce and what we call midlife, which is, around your 50s and later. So let's talk just a little bit about what you do to support women in that place, and your podcast and all your other resources.
Well, thank you. Yes. And divorce is high in midlife. So is widowhood. So is caring for our aging parents. But yes, at the core of where I started everything was to support that mom who was either about to launch her child or they had already left. And I support them through community. I have a community called Moms Who Dare. I have a membership community, and I support them through offering the same mindset, the personal growth strategies. This is all personal transformation work through self-awareness, our self-talk, our mindset, our happiness. And I do it through my show. I have solo episodes. That's how I bring in these mindset and happiness tips. You'll hear a lot of me talking about happy for no reason in there. And that's how I support them. I support them in that this is a time of our life to celebrate that we've raised our kids to dare to brave new experiences, go out in the world, discover who they get to be. And my favorite word to add, now we get to do the same thing. I'm like, make it an adventure for you. Life is not over as a mom. My daughter's 29 years old, and as of this recording, she has COVID, and she called me to ask me what she should do. They need you.
Never. They're always your children.
Motherhood, a life sentence with a big heart. I have a T-shirt I wear, it says it. But you're always a mom, and yet now it is your time too. You've done what you're supposed to do. You're not finished. They don't know what they don't know. And yet you have now this space where you can now discover who you get to be. So you can go seek what is it that truly does bring you joy and laughter and make you smile and happier. Because when you do that, your adult relationship with your child will explode on you in such a great way, because that's another phase of motherhood that I'm working on sharing and helping women embrace, because it could be, I'm loving that part.
Yeah. Well, it's a whole nother beyond,
it's
right? Beyond motherhood to young ones,
Yeah.
right? You're moving into, or littles, as my friend Christina McGee calls them.
And there's a woman who has a Instagram account. I want to say, does she have a podcast called Mom of Bigs? I like that. Mom of Bigs. Yeah.
Mama Bigs, right? Well, and so there are many transitions that we will go through in life, and many beyond. And so I'm delighted to know that there is a journey to happiness that you can be taking alongside the many transitions that will happen in your life. Because divorce is just one of them. There will be many transitions, and we all want to have happiness riding alongside. So please let everybody know the best ways to get in touch with you, the best place to find your podcast and your coaching and you.
So everything is right at jodisilverman.com. The show is called Beyond Empty Nest, the Beyond word. But yeah, you can get to the podcast there. You can read about me, the community. You can find the community there. Moms Who Dare Moms Who Dare lives on Facebook. That's where we are. And any woman is welcome in the Moms Who Dare community through any life transition. But jodisilverman.com is the main place.
Well, I'll link to everything in the show notes, listeners. If you want to know more about Jodi, there will also be information about her in the show notes. But go check her out at jodisilverman.com, because it sounds like there's I know there's a lot of great information there. So Jodi, thank you so much for coming and for helping everyone who's listening, including me, find happiness even when life throws you a curveball. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you for joining me today on the Divorce and Beyond podcast. I hope you found some information and inspiration to help you on this journey. Please join me every Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for a new episode. And if you like the show, please take the time to subscribe and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. You can also find more information on the website at divorceandbeyondpod.com, where you'll find links to the YouTube channel, transcripts of the episodes, and other bonus content. So I'll see you next week to help you move through your divorce and beyond.